Workfront tasks are extended with custom data as above that allows you to control how Timeline then calculates and displays multiple critical paths, MCP, upon View Report click, as shown to the right. You can set any task, typically an end node, to critical task equals yes, for example, task 1 and task 2, and choose the critical task color, for example, aqua. Both are cross-project predecessor placeholders in this example. In the same manner, you can set other critical tasks and colors, for example, task 5 in blue. Note how Timeline crawls its way up the task 5 predecessors and parent to color its blue critical path, and a third, for example, task 8 in chocolate, and a fourth, for example, task 10 in hot pink. Note that where a later critical path, for example, hot pink, overlaps with an earlier critical path, for example, brown and blue, the earlier critical path colors will be shown. To help better understand a particular critical path, you can toggle a critical task off, for example, task 5, so that Timeline can then reveal the underlying later critical paths, for example, from task 10. Similarly, you could toggle the aqua critical task off on task 1 and task 2 to reveal the chocolate critical path that crawls up from task 8. Timeline suffixes each task's predecessors for traceability. You can leave the critical task color set during such critical task toggles so that when you then toggle a critical task back on, for example, task 5, Timeline simply reapplies that critical task color, for example, blue. You can also set the critical path visibility of any task to hidden, for example, task 3, task 4, and task 5, to effectively collapse portions of the timeline, for example, showing only their phase 1 parent task. Where the plan dates on a cross-project predecessor is changed, simulated here on task 2, Timeline reflects that change accordingly, just as Workfront does. By setting the minimum task float in days, for example, to 5 on task 4, you can gain early warning insights of tasks that might become part of the critical path if they slip by that amount or more, for example, task 1. You can also set the critical path visibility equal to show to ensure that a particular task is visible, but simply gray, for example, task 5, for context. Alternatively, you can set critical task visibility equal highlight to show the task in bright yellow, for example, task 4. You can then set critical task visibility equal automatic, for example, task 3, task 4, and task 5, to return them to their default timeline behavior. Again, where the plan date on a cross-project predecessor is changed, simulated here on task 2, returning it to its original value, both Timeline and Workfront reflects that change accordingly. Instead of placeholders, when tasks with cross-project predecessors exist, Timeline will crawl back into those projects to reveal the details of the feeder projects and their feeder projects, and so forth. Similarly, where a critical task is toggled, off in this case on task 5, the critical path coloring will also crawl its way back into the tasks on the feeder projects. Furthermore, if toggling off a critical task, task 8 in this example, removes the path that connects to a feeder project, for example, the second here, Timeline will neither crawl the feeder project nor display it. Zooming in, there are many different modes to consider, such as all tasks without parent, critical paths only with parent, critical paths only without parent, official critical paths only with parent, official critical paths only without parent. On every timeline, using the Indent tab, you can also select varying levels, such as all, level 0 or 1, projects only, summary. Use AtAppStore's timeline solution to visualize multiple critical paths, MCP, within Workfront by crawling task predecessors both within projects of interest and their feeder projects where cross-project predecessors exist in real time using either the official critical task checkboxes and/or critical task checkboxes. In addition to the project level examples in this user manual, Timeline can also be installed at the program, portfolio, and standalone dashboard level. For even more control, you can also create and apply your own project and task filters to restrict the initial set of tasks being crawled to only those that match.